Number 1. Possible Skinwalker. Before I get into the meat of the story, you'll need to know some background information. This takes place in 2010. I had just turned 9. My aunt just died from cancer, and my mom, sister, and aunt's son were heading to my great-grandma's house. From my grandma's porch, you can see about halfway around a turn that goes past a firehouse. Later in the night, after the adults discussed funeral plans while my sister, my cousin, and I played GTA, my mom said it was time to go. I was the first one out the door because my mother said goodbye to my great-grandmother and other family members. When I stepped out on the porch, I remember just scanning the road and looking towards the fire station. In the dim light that was coming from the street, there was a mass. The mass was sort of hunched over when I first saw it. When it started to move, I noticed how awkward it was, moving, almost like a crab-type walk. Its arms and legs were bent in ungodly ways. It was incredibly skinny, and it didn't seem to have any sort of clothes on. Since its chest was facing up, I could see the thing's ribs. They looked almost like they were about to burst out of its skin. At this point, I'm horrified, but I cannot seem to move or yell for my mother. I just remember crying. Its head was bald, and it had sunken eyes, or no eyes at all. Even though it was 8 years ago, I remember every second of this event. It felt like I was staring at it for hours. But it was most likely 30 seconds to a minute. I don't know if I've ever been so scared in my life. Then I did something. I have no idea why I did. I started walking towards the stairs of the porch. I would have walked all the way to that thing, but I was stopped when I heard a noise. It was the door of my great-grandma's house opening, and my mom stepped out. I turned back to look at her, then turned back to where the thing was. It was gone. I've never seen anything like this since. A few years later, I found out what skinwalkers are. I tried telling my mom, but she never believed me. I'm open to any suggestions on more practical ideas of what it was. It was too slim to be a human. It didn't look like a coyote or a bear with a mane, because, once again, it was too skinny. Also, no animals would be in that position. Its bones went all the wrong way, or at least its arms did. Number 2. A Mocking Shadow. When I was 17, my dad and I moved into my stepmom's house. From the moment I stepped foot in her house, I had a creepy feeling about it. It always felt like something was watching me. Eyes followed me all the time, of day and night. I just started meditating at this time as well, but couldn't get full silence whenever I was home alone. There was always bumping in the attic or moving in another room. Shortly after moving in, I started experiencing the shadow. But I wasn't alone. My stepmother and father have also seen the shadow. It would always start from the hallway into my dad's study. We all would vocally acknowledge this to one another when the activities started picking up. I was in my room one day and I heard the front door open. My dog started barking and I heard my stepmom's voice asking the dogs if they wanted to go outside. She sounded chipper, so I came out of my room to say hello. But when I reached the living room, no one was there. My dogs were in the middle of the living room barking towards my dad's study. The front door was still locked. After looking around, I was still the only one home. I let the dogs outside to calm down and I went back to the living room. I asked the shadow to never mock one of us again, that we weren't playing games, and I left the conversation one-sided and went outside until someone actually came home. Fast forward to the weekend. I was in the city for a couple of days staying with a friend at our hotel who had to come visit. I got a call from my father around 6 a.m. the next morning. Hungover, I still answered. He asked me why I left the house so early. I was extremely confused. He knew what time I had left the previous day and asked what he was talking about. I had been with his friend all night. Silence. He said, "No, you opened your bedroom door last night and told us you were home. Then you walked away and went to your room and shut the door." Silence. I was trying to figure out what to tell him, that I wasn't home last night. When I did, he lost his shit. A shadow is mocking my voice now, and it still does to this day. It mocks all our voices. Number 3. I led something home and now my cat is dead. To provide some context, I am a female, 14, 5'1", and 100 pounds soaking wet. So I'm not the most intimidating person in the world, and I'm likely a target for a lot of creeps. I have no explanation for this. This happened about a month ago. I like to skateboard at night, so it's become almost a ritual to go down my street right before I get ready to bed. My street is about a mile long and is surrounded by woods on both sides, so basically in the middle of nowhere. One night, I was about halfway down my road when I started to feel weird. You know, that stereotypical feeling of being watched? Yeah, I was feeling that. Being creeped out, I decided to end my ride early, peering anxiously into the woods, expecting I might see someone there. I decided to look behind me, and I saw it. A large human figure standing on the end of my sideline. It was tall and dark, too dark. Its long arms reached past where human knees would be. I have no idea what it was, because it, or he, was most definitely not human. I hauled my ass out of there, down the hill at lightning speed, but every time I looked back, I could still see it. It was following me, and when I got home, I ran inside and up to my room, and I shut off all the lights and hid in a corner. As wimpy as it sounds, I know most of you would too. I was home alone, and no sane police officer would believe me. Eventually I crashed and everything was normal for about a week. One day, a week or two ago, my family cat went missing. 3 days later, we found him strung up in a pine tree by his own entrails. I immediately threw up and started sobbing. I knew what had done this. After that day, I heard faint scratching outside my window every night. I would never feel alone. My night terrors were getting worse by the day, and all I could think about is that. If I'm not careful, I'll be in the tree next. I keep my curtains drawn, and I haven't skateboarded since. Update. My night terrors have become sleep paralysis. I wake up, and I'm not alone. I look to my right and see that figure standing there. Each night it gets closer. I fear what will happen when it reaches my bed. The scratching has become more frequent. I'm unable to fall asleep peacefully, and I've become afraid of sleep, as it only brings more night terrors and sleep paralysis. Hey guys, thanks for watching. This is my first time doing one of the reads like this. I know it's a little bit cutty, and I do have some mistakes in there, but I tried my best, and I hope you liked them. Good night, and sleep. Hopefully alone.